So here is your first look at a real and fake pair of the Yeezy 350 V2 in the natural colorway. Can you tell any difference between these two? Because they're incredibly close. Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we have a comparison, which is a pretty delayed comparison I have to admit, but it is between two pairs of Yeezys, and it is actually the Yeezy Natural. But before we get into this video, I'd like to give a big shout out to the sponsorship, and that is Legitmark. Legitmark is the standard for sneaker authentication and is the safest place to get your sneakers legit checked. So if you're buying an expensive pair or one that you know has a good fake, Legitmark is the place to get it checked out. So there's a link in the description if you want to check them out. So here we have a real and a fake pair. We'll just be going through some of the details if you are trying to buy a retail pair. The retail pair was purchased directly from Size, so we'll just be breaking down some of the differences and what to look for if you're buying a retail pair. So the first thing to note is the box itself. The fake box here is a slightly smaller size. It's probably smaller by a centimetre all around, and it's a lot more damaged than the retail box. The retail box obviously is in pristine condition. They did a really good job of shipping it to me, whereas this one came all the way from China. It was double boxed, however there's still a large amount of dents on the box itself. So in terms of the label, and there's a huge difference here straight away, and I'll give you a close-up of this. So before the release, they decided to change their name last minute. So on the retail one, you can see it says Natura, 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 and that is because this is the Yeezy Natural colorway. Whereas on the fake one, it says Abeth, Abeth, Abeth. And that's because that was the previous name for this colorway model, but they obviously changed it last minute, so you can see the differences. However, I have seen some retail pairs released with that sticker on it, with the old colorway name on it, so don't use this as a way to legit check. It's just something to note of where you purchased your retail pair from, what to look for if you have, and to note that there are differences between the two stickers. But other than that, you can't really compare the stickers because the font, text and everything like that is completely different from both colorways and what they're called. So that's pretty much it for the box. So we'll open it up and take a look at the shoes themselves. So we'll open up the retail one first. So obviously the paper comes wrapped completely around the shoe. It does come with the receipt from Size, so it shows authenticity. Open it up, it's a little bit harder to open because the box is damaged. So here is your first look at a real and fake pair of the Yeezy 350 V2 in the natural colorway. Can you tell any difference between these two? Because they're incredibly close. So we'll take the two pairs out of the boxes and then compare some of the differences. What has to be noted is that fake one, the paper came completely flat on the bottom of the box and wasn't wrapped around the shoe. They both come with the spare laces in the cardboard packaging. There's no real difference here. They're exactly the same. So here are the two pairs, and the first thing to note actually occurs on the right shoe, and it's the labels that are attached to the shoe. So I'll give you a close-up of this. You can see that there are differences in the labels. Obviously, the retail one has the Adidas one on the side, whereas the fake one has based this on the American labels. So as you can see, this one retail pair was purchased in the UK, so the labels are different to what is on the fake one, because this one is based on the American one. So the labels will be a lot closer to the US labels. However, there's a difference if you purchased it in the UK. So now we'll take a look at the left shoe and take a look at some of the differences if you're trying to authenticate and buy a retail pair. So the first difference to note, and it's very obvious, is from above. And if you take a look at the toe box area, and I'll give you a close-up of this, you can see that the toe box area, the shape is completely different. On the retail pair, comparing that to the fake one just has that more pointy toe towards the end, whereas the retail one just looks like a classic Yeezy 350. So there is a clear difference to note in shape from the upper viewpoint. Also, looking from the upper viewpoint of the toe, you can see the huge difference in the stripe length, and this is a clear flaw between the two pairs. The retail one, the stripe length goes way towards the bottom, whereas on the fake one, the stripe length is much shorter and shows more of a toe box prime knit. In terms of colour, however, they're absolutely spot on. There's little to no difference in the colour itself. They've done a really good job with the prime knit colour. Honestly, it's really hard to tell the difference between the prime knit from a glance in the studio. Looking at that backward shape here, you can see there are differences from the back. On the retail one, I'm scared to say it actually looks a little bit more chunky than it does on the fake one. The fake one, in my opinion, actually looks better. The shape is much more slim comparing that to the retail one. However, there are differences as you can see, and the shape is one of them. Also, if we take a look at the back heel, we can see where the part of the sole plate on the back is different. Where it wraps up from the bottom of the sole, you can see there are different materials used. On the fake one, it's slightly more glossy, whereas on the retail one, it's a more clouded material, and you can almost see the boost through slightly more. Taking a look down the upper of the prime net and looking at the stitching going down the middle, there's really no difference here. The fake one's done a very good job of this stitching quality. At the back and the front, they've got this spot on. In terms of colour of the stitching as well, it is exactly the same, so there's no difference here. Looking at the laces on the top, they've both used the infinity laces, which occurs on the retail pair, and they have the spare laces that come in the box. In terms of colour and thickness, spot on once again. There is no difference between a retail and a fake pair, so that is quite worrying to see, as they are incredibly close indeed. Looking at the sole colour from the side, what I would say is that the retail pair is a slightly darker yellow on the bottom, whereas the fake one is a slightly more creamy. However, this does change depending on the lighting, so in public you're not really going to notice this, and it is a very, very close colour indeed. So you'll only spot it if you have a retail pair in hand. If we're taking a look at the pattern towards the toe box, because of the stripe being differently positioned, you can see much more of that toe box prime knit material comparing that to the retail one. So there are sections of the prime knit which are way larger on the fake one comparing to the retail one. So there are key differences here in the prime knit itself. Now if we take out the paper from inside, we can see there's actually really no difference. I was actually surprised. I was about to say there is a difference, but there really isn't. In terms of feel, they're exactly the same. I would say the fake one is slightly darker than the retail one, but other than that, that's probably the best paper I've ever seen inside a shoe. Normally there's big differences here, so quite worrying. Cracking down on the paper. We'll take out the insole now. And if we take a look at the Adidas logo on the top, you can see that the three stripes on the top once again are messy on the fake one comparing this to the retail one. The retail one on the Adidas symbol always has three clean stripes, whereas you can see on the fake one the paint stripes are slightly messy. In terms of underneath and looking at the Adidas symbol on the bottom, you can see that the R next to the Adidas symbol is much bigger on the fake one comparing this to the retail one. But are you really ever going to take out an insole and look at it closely unless you're legit checking a shoe? Probably not, but that is some difference to note. So turning the shoe upside down and taking a look at probably the most important part of the shoe, and that is the boost. And if I give you a close-up of this, you can see clear differences here. So on the fake one, you can see it's a much more glossed material comparing that to the real one. The real one doesn't really have any shine to it at all, whereas the fake one does. In terms of pattern, I would say that the circles with the three lines in them are more visible on the retail pair comparing that to the fake, and that would say that the fake one is maybe slightly more texturized than the retail one, but there is clearly a difference between a retail and fake one in hand. Also, if we take a look at the bottom, not sure if it's going to show up on the camera, but the bottom sole plate of the fake one is much more glossy than the retail one. Once again, the retail one has a much more clouded appearance than the fake one, but after a few wears, you're not going to see this again because you'll just wear off the gloss and you'll actually hopefully have some dirt on the shoe, but that is a difference to note if they are both dead stock. So as you've seen from this video, they are pretty close indeed. From a distance you wouldn't really know, but if you are trying to legit check a pair and you have a retail pair in hand, there are still signs to look for. But if you don't, I would recommend checking out Legitmark, because without them, if you just had this one in hand, would you be able to tell if this is a retail or fake? Let me know down below in the comments, you might be able to tell. And let me know down below in the comments if you spotted any more differences or flaws. But thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a great day.